God, work is just so bad. Oh man. Oh, jeez. I hate doing work. Oh, what is this? A Caesar salad? Oh, great! More Caesar. Well, better grab some olives for this salad. When in Rome. Yeah. Tossing this out. Wait a minute. Boom. Here we go.
William Shakespeare was most likely born on April 23rd, 1564, in Stratford-upon-Avon, a small town located about 100 miles west of London. However, there is no record of his exact birth date. All that is known is that he was baptized on April 26th, so the most common date given for his birth is April 23rd, as was tradition to baptize children 3 days before their birth during this time. Shakespeare was born to John and Mary Shakespeare and was the oldest surviving child. Before having William, John and Mary had two girls that did not live through infancy. After William, the Shakespeares had three boys and two girls. However, one of the girls, Anne, died at the age of 7. John Shakespeare was a leather worker who specialized in white leather, and John Shakespeare was also a savvy businessman and ended up rising through the local offices in Stratford and became the town bailiff, which is much like a modern day mayor. Although there are no formal records, with Shakespeare being the child in a leading Stratford family, many assume he attended school at the Stratford Grammar School. Shakespeare did not attend a university, and this raised many questions about the authorship of his work, and even brought about questions of whether Shakespeare ever actually lived. In the early 19th century, when adoration for Shakespeare was at its height, the Shakespeare-Oxford Society brought up questions of how a man of such modest education could write with the intelligence shown in Shakespeare's plays. They argued that the real author of these plays was Edward de Vere, a British poet and aristocrat whose writing style was similar to the style exhibited in Shakespeare's plays. This conspiracy, however, is widely disregarded by scholars. In November of 1582, Shakespeare married Anne Hathaway, a woman who was 8 years his senior. At the time of the wedding, Hathaway was pregnant with their first child, a daughter named Susanna. In February of 1585, Hathaway and Shakespeare had twins, a boy named Hamnet and a girl named Judith. Tragically, Hamnet died at the age of 11 due to unknown causes. After the birth of the twins, there are 7 years where Shakespeare falls off the map. Records of his whereabouts and actions during this time are faulty and unreliable. Most scholars refer to these as his lost years. Starting in 1592, there are records of Shakespeare's involvement in the London theatre scene. Records show that Shakespeare had become a partner in the Lord Chamberlain's Men, an acting group from London. The group would later change their name to the King's Men with the crowning of King James I. By the mid-1590s, almost half of the 37 plays written by Shakespeare had been published and performed. Shakespeare had started to accumulate a significant amount of wealth by this point and bought the second largest house in Stratford for his family. In 1599, Shakespeare and his associates built the iconic Globe Theatre on the banks of the Thames River. The popular belief is that William Shakespeare died on his birthday, April 23rd, 1616. However, just like his birth, the exact date is not certain. What is known for certain is that Shakespeare was interred at Trinity Church on April 25th, 1616.
Although the play is called Julius Caesar, Caesar is not the main character. In fact, he dies halfway through the play. The real main character of this play is Brutus, one of Caesar's political advisors and a staunch supporter of the Republic. Brutus is one of Caesar's most trusted friends, but is wrestling with his loyalties because he believes Caesar is becoming too powerful, thus undermining the Republic of Rome. Everything done by Brutus is done in the best interest of Rome. The other main character is Cassius. Cassius is jealous of Caesar and wants Caesar dead because of a personal dislike and jealousy of Caesar, not because of his love for Rome. The play begins with a giant parade of Roman people celebrating Caesar's win over Pompey in battle, doing things such as cheering and hanging decorations on statues throughout the city. Flavius and Marellus, two of Caesar's men, tell people to stop, saying that they should not be abandoning their work to celebrate the death of a fallen Roman leader. Caesar scolds these two and continues to celebrate. As they are celebrating, a soothsayer tells Caesar, "Beware the Ides of March." He ignores and keeps celebrating. Cassius and Brutus begin talking, and Cassius insists that people keep talking positively of Brutus and want him to lead the Republic. Brutus fears that people want Caesar to become king, ruining this republic. Although Brutus is loyal to Caesar, he is even more loyal to the people and the Republic of Rome. Cassius manipulates Brutus into believing that he is an equal to Caesar and that many people are supportive of Brutus to end Caesar's tyrannical reign. Cassius more or less acts like a mirror for Brutus. He tries to show Brutus what everybody else sees in him. Upon seeing Brutus and Cassius conversing, Caesar says to Mark Antony, Caesar's best friend, how much he distrusts Cassius. During the night after the celebration, Rome is filled with bad omens. Cassius gets Brutus to support the plot of Caesar's killing by throwing letters into the room of Brutus believed to have been written by Roman citizens. In actuality, the letters were written by Cassius because he knows that Brutus will go along with the conspiracy if he believes it's for the will of the Roman people. After Brutus reads the planted letters, he is on board with the conspiracy. Our selection, Act 2, Scene 1, shows Brutus in conflict with himself, contemplating Cassius's proposition of murdering Caesar to preserve the Republic. Throughout the scene, Brutus reasons that the only way is to kill Caesar, and when Brutus' servant, Lucius, delivers him one of the letters planted by Cassius, his mind is made up. Brutus is going to help murder Julius Caesar.
What, Lucius, ho! I cannot by the progress of the stars give guess how near it is today. Lucius, I say, I would it were my fault to sleep so soundly. When, Lucius, when? Awake, I say. What, Lucius?
Called you, my lord?
Give me a taper in my study, Lucius. When it is lighted, come and call me here.
I will, my lord.
It must be by his death, and for my part, I know no personal cause to spurn at him. But for the general, he would be crowned. How that might change his nature, there's a question. It is the bright day that brings forth the adder, and that craves weary walking. Crown him that, and then I grant we put a sting in him, that at his will he may do danger with. The abuse of greatness is when it disjoins, remorse from power, and to speak truth of Caesar, I have not known when his affection swayed, more than his reason. But 'tis a common proof that lowliness is young ambition's ladder, whereto the climber upward turns his face. But when he once attains the utmost round, he then unto the ladder turns his back, looks in the clouds, scorning the base degrees, by which he did ascend. So Caesar may, then, lest he may, prevent, and then, since the quarrel will bear no color for the thing he is, fashion it thus, that what he is augmented would run to these and these extremities, and therefore think him as a serpent's egg, which hatch would as his kind grow mischievous, and kill him in his shell.
The taper burneth in your closet, sir. While searching the window for flint, I found this paper, thus sealed up. I am sure it did not lie there when I went to bed.
Get you to bed again. It is not day. Is not tomorrow, boy, the Ides of March?
I know not, sir.
Look in the calendar and bring me word.
I will, sir.
Brutus, thou sleepest. Awake and see thyself. Shall Rome, etc., speak, strike, redress? Brutus, thou sleepest, awake. Such instigations have been often dropped, where I have took them up. Shall Rome, etc., thus must I piece it out? Shall Rome stand under one man's awe? What Rome? My ancestors did from the streets of Rome the Tarquin drive when he was called a king. Speak, strike, redress. Am I entreated to speak and strike? O Rome, I make thee promise, if the redress will follow, thou receivest the full petition at the hands of Brutus.
Sir, March has wasted 15 days.
'Tis good, go to the gate, somebody knocks.
After our scene, Brutus meets with the other conspirators and they finalize a plan to murder Caesar the following day. The conspirators are worried that Caesar will not leave his house because of bad omens that have been taking place. However, one of the conspirators proclaims that he will be able to lure Caesar to Capitol Hill to be murdered. The meeting concludes and the plan is in place. Brutus returns to his home to be met by his wife. His wife confronts him about his odd behavior and pleads with Brutus to share with her what he is planning. Brutus proclaims that he is not worthy of such a noble wife, but still refrains from telling her the conspiracy to kill Caesar. The play then skips ahead to the next morning, where Caesar's wife, Calpurnia, has been experiencing horrific dreams of Caesar being slaughtered. Calpurnia pleads with Caesar not to leave the house, saying that the bad omens of her dream, along with the omens seen by night watchmen, such as a lioness giving birth in the streets of Rome, and graves cracking open, are signs that something terrible will happen to Caesar. Caesar agrees to not travel to the Senate, but one of the conspirators comes to talk to Caesar into going, saying that the omens have been misinterpreted, and that if he doesn't attend the Senate today, then the Senate might change their mind about crowning Caesar. Upon hearing this, he decides to go to the Senate against the wishes of his wife. As they arrive on the scene of the Senate, a senator approaches Caesar, asking for clemency for his banished brother. After Caesar turns down his plea, the conspirators strike. The last person to stab Caesar is Brutus. And when Caesar sees Brutus as part of the plan, he says, "Et tu, Brute?" Caesar then succumbs to his injuries and dies. Brutus and the rest of the conspirators proclaim victory for peace and liberty. Mark Antony goes to Brutus and Cassius and says he will be loyal to them and asks not to be put to death just for his prior loyalty to Caesar. Brutus agrees to spare Antony, believing it will look too bloody if he is killed. When the conspirators leave Antony alone, he swears to avenge Caesar. Now that Caesar has been killed, Brutus has to appeal to the Roman citizens. He needs to show that they are better off without being under the oppressive rule of Caesar. At Caesar's funeral, Brutus gives a speech to the Roman citizens about how he loves Caesar, but was forced to kill him because he had become a danger to the Republic. The Roman citizens feel pretty good about this speech. However, Mark Antony speaks next at the funeral. He questions the motives of the killers and reminds the citizens of all the good that Julius did, even mentioning how he thrice turned down the crown. Antony then produces Caesar's will and reads to the Romans that Caesar left a sum of money to all of them. This incites a riot, and the Romans turn against Cassius and Brutus. The rioters drive Cassius and Brutus out of the city. Meanwhile, Julius's adopted son Octavius arrives in the city and takes over as ruler with Mark Antony and Lepidus. The three prepare for battle against the force of Cassius and Brutus, who are at the outskirts of the city. Antony and Octavius march their forces towards Cassius and Brutus, with Octavius attacking Cassius and Antony attacking Brutus. Cassius sends out one of his men to see how matters are progressing when he hears the battle is not going too well. The man, Pindarus, sees Titanius, one of Cassius's main men, surrounded by troops. Pindarus takes the news back to Cassius, and in despair over Titanius being captured, Cassius orders Pindarus to kill him. However, right after Pindarus kills Cassius, Titanius comes back and reveals that those surrounding him were friendly troops. But after seeing Cassius dead, Titanius too kills himself. Meanwhile, Brutus is being overpowered by the forces of Mark Antony, and when defeat is imminent, he asks one of his men to hold his sword while he impales himself with it. Antony and Octavius arrive at the body of Brutus. Antony speaks over the body, calling Brutus the noblest of Romans. This is because he always acted for the best interests of the Republic, never for personal gain. Octavius rules Brutus's body to be buried in the noblest of ways, and then they go to celebrate their victory.
A major theme of this play is the concept of fate versus free will. Cassius believes that Caesar's fate to become ruler is complete rubbish. He thinks that the Republic should return to a more self-controlling lifestyle. On the contrary, Caesar believes in the opposite. Caesar believes that many things in life happen that we cannot prevent or control, so there is no use worrying or focusing on these happenings. The play seems to show that the universe runs on a coexistence between fate and free will. A second prevalent theme in Julius Caesar is how ignoring and misinterpreting signs and warnings can lead to your demise. Throughout the play, many characters are presented with warnings, but few interpret them correctly. For instance, Julius is warned by a soothsayer to beware the Ides of March. With his arrogance, he ignores this warning and takes no precautions. As it turned out, that day was the day that Caesar was assassinated. Another major case of misinterpreting signs was one night when Cassius was in the Senate. The room was full of ominous warnings. Cassius believed that this was to foreshadow the death and downfall of Caesar, but in reality, the signs were warning him of the damage he will do to himself. Cassius ended up dying later in the play. Themes like this are strongly portrayed and emphasized throughout the play, which is a reason most critics highly acclaim this play. Most, if not all, play reviewers believe Julius Caesar is one of Shakespeare's most elegant plays. A writer for BookReviewCircle.com says she appreciates the masterful adaptation of hard facts and cold historical events in a way so as to move an uneducated audience without cheapening or detracting from the original in any way. The bard at his best. Julius Caesar uses historical facts and figures tied deep into the text to truly express daily life and customs for the people of ancient Rome. A production of Julius Caesar was held at the Globe Theatre, and Charles Spencer, a professional reviewer for Telegraph.uk.co, had nothing but good things to say about it. Spencer writes that besides the uncomfortable seating in the Globe Theatre, the connection between the audience and the performers is magical and infatuating. Spencer writes that the play holds the audience's attention even in Shakespeare's less inspired passages. This is largely thanks to the freshness of the acting and the fact that this is a great public play that suits the Globe to a T. Both Nick and I really enjoyed reading and working with this play. We both liked how it was more complex than most of Shakespeare's plays that we have read. The characters were very intricate, and there wasn't a true villain in the play. We both agreed that this is the best Shakespeare play that either of us have read.